Check, check. Okay, that's better. Okay, can you guys hear me now? Check, check. That should have been it. Okay, great. We're off to the races. Sorry about that. Admittedly, I got a little cocky tonight because it's been so long since we've had audio issues here that I did something I never do here tonight. I did a stream without checking that the audio was good. I made a major mistake. This is the first time I've done that in a long time. I trusted it was good because we've had no issues, and I missed something. I'm glad we're here. Going to give people a couple minutes to get in here before we get too established in the stream. We're going to let people get in here for a minute because it takes people, since we've moved to this new channel, we've noticed it takes people a little bit longer to get in because it's a smaller channel. It's understandable. If you're new here, which I don't think anybody is, this is a place where we're going to be listening to anonymous calls for about 2 hours. We don't know who's calling in. I don't know who has what on their minds. We just provide a place for people here to talk anonymously. It's important that you stay anonymous if you call in. If you dox yourself, you will get toasted. It seems harsh, but it's really for you so that you know you are anonymous. I'm not going to let a caller carry on if they have doxed themselves or someone else that's involved in the story because the kinds of things that get talked about here are just too sensitive to risk that. So that is our only mechanism for ensuring this place stays truly anonymous. We are anonymous, ruthlessly anonymous. So please, if you call in, no names, no locations, I will remind callers about that as we get into it tonight. Let's see here. Hope you guys are having a great new year. I think this is our second stream of the year. Yes, that's right. We have an Anonymous Live Discord server that is an extension of this. It is in the description, the link to the Anonymous Live server. It's in the description, totally free to use. People are in there every day using it to hang out. People are using it to talk about things like we talk about here on the stream. Sometimes people open up to each other. They're in beautiful ways, I would say, beautiful ways. It's a community of people that just want to be real. And sometimes that means playing video games together. Sometimes that means talking about heavy stuff. You can use it however you like to use it. It's free, and the link is in the description. Lines are opening here. We're about to get started. My apologies to anybody who stumbled across this in replay and found it with no audio. I'm probably not going to clean that up later because it's a lot of work and there's so many other things here. So my apologies if you've just discovered this and are watching it in replay. We have been trying to get cut downs of every call for months now on this channel. It's amazing how much goes into just any little change here. Have a call coming in. We're going to take it. Hi there. Thanks for calling.
Hey, Julian. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you tonight?
Good. I called in a few times before then. I was the guy that went to college and fell short of a few credit hours, and I was just disenchanted about my future and everything.
Okay, you're a return caller.
Yeah.
if you don't mind, can you jog our memory a little bit further than that? We have people calling in here a lot around
Yeah, sure.
college times. I just want to make sure because I don't know anybody who's calling in. I just want to make sure I know that I'm understanding everything I'm supposed to.
I'm a journalism major. I fell short of a few credit hours, and I was just so bitter about journalism. And is it even worth pursuing this journey?
Oh yeah, we had a call recently about you were, if I remember correctly, you called in recently about you had been invested in studying journalism, but then you were wondering if other types of storytelling might be better suited for you.
Yeah, right around there.
Okay. You were talking about maybe making movies or maybe making other types of stories, and if that's ringing a bell, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm finished. I graduated a few weeks ago.
Congratulations! Sorry, that deserves applause. I would have been on cue there. I was pouring some water. Here, I don't think my soundboard is open yet. So many audio issues that got reset. Let's see here. You were about to receive applause for that. You graduated. So wait, you graduated in what? Tell me, you graduated with the degree in journalism? Is that what you're saying?
Specifically multimedia journalism.
Amazing. You did it.
Thanks.
You did it. How does that feel?
It felt good. I'm finally getting that diploma holder and just being like, it's over. I'm done. No more school. But at the same time, I was just wondering, did I really earn this? Did I really genuinely earn this, or was this just given to me out of pity?
A degree?
Yeah, like sometimes I wonder, did they just give this to me because, like, all right, fine, if it gets him out of here, give it to him?
So you're questioning whether you deserve what you earned or not?
Yeah, pretty much.
So there's, what is the name of this phenomenon? Let's see here. I'm going to find it. It's the name of this phenomenon you're talking about is escaping me.
Imposter syndrome?
What's that?
Was it imposter syndrome?
It's adjacent to that. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect. Dunning-Kruger effect. Are you familiar with that? The Dunning-Kruger effect?
This is the first night I'm hearing of it.
Okay, so you're talking about the Dunning-Kruger effect. Dunning-Kruger. That's Dunning-Kruger effect. Reading the Wikipedia on this, it says, the Dunning-Kruger effect is a cognitive bias whereby people with low ability, expertise, or experience regarding a certain type of task or area of knowledge tend to overestimate their ability or knowledge. So basically what it's saying is that people with low ability tend to overestimate their ability. So people who think they're really good at something usually aren't very good at that thing. And then there's an opposite effect on people who are actually skilled in a particular task or line of reasoning that tend to doubt their merits. Are you familiar with this? Have you heard of, like, maybe you haven't heard of this by name, but maybe you're familiar with the concept?
Right. I think I've heard something similar in that vein. So
what I'm saying to you is you got a degree. They don't just hand those out. If they did, I would have a couple. I don't have a degree in anything. I maybe have a couple third degree burns. But I'm actually not sure that was a joke. I don't have any burns that I know of. But the point is, like, we've all touched a hot stove. We've all done something that hurt. I'm trying to encourage you that, like, you got a degree, my friend. That's amazing. You pressed through. I remember that conversation. I don't remember it in detail. I would need you to jog my memory a bit more if there's something you want to pick back up on, but you did it. You finished.
This is like my third time calling in, and the first time I called in, I was like, I'm done. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm just sitting here thinking, what am I doing? I called him the second time saying that, I re-enrolled in for that class that I failed, and saying that, one way or another, these assignments you do, they're not going to go away, so it's best to just push on through the mud and just sink.
So are you not able to feel a sense of accomplishment for finishing what you set out to finish? Do you get no sense of accomplishment from that?
It's just that I know they say don't ever compare yourself to others, but I just look at what my friends have accomplished, and I just get like, oh man, I could have done that, or yeah, that looks better than what I did, or it's like you're making an omelet. You make a pretty decent omelet, then you look at what they put in. They put in these peppers, these spices, and I'm like, oh man, why didn't I do that? Now I just got mediocrity on my plate. Sorry, I have a way with metaphors.
Yeah, I'd say you do. So you're comparing yourself to what other people do.
Yeah, and like I said, I know you're not supposed to do that, but I'm very, very self-critical of what I do.
So there's an element of this Dunning-Kruger effect that I'm still going to hang on to because I think it applies to you. Like you finished one of the hardest things people can finish, which is a college degree, let alone in something like storytelling, whether that's journalism or any type of storytelling. That's one of the more rigorous, one of the more ethereal and difficult degrees to acquire, I would say. I would put that up there, like, this might be a hot take, I would put it up there with something like being a doctor or a surgeon, even though they're not equatable, they're not the same thing. Like, being a surgeon is maybe on some, I'm not trying to disparage surgeons or anything by saying this, but like writing in a way that, like, writing is very ethereal. It's very intangible. Like, surgery is the opposite thing. Like, I'll be fair here. I would hope if I was getting surgery that it was from a doctor who had some letters behind their name, who had accomplished some things in school and training. So I'm not saying that, like, doctors are not important or that it's, like, easy or something. But the point is that, like, writing is a very intangible art. It's something that, like, you gotta kind of have a knack for to get through any sort of training in, because in order there's nothing to touch. There's nothing to, like, look at and be like, oh, that hurts. Like, it's words. It's very ethereal. So you finishing a degree in writing, in my mind, is a huge accomplishment because it's so ethereal, because it's so intangible. If someone finishes a degree in a course like that, I think that says a lot. It says a lot not only about your ability, but about your determination to finish that and get that degree. And this Dunning-Kruger effect is interesting because, like, I can hear it in your voice, like this phenomenon, this Dunning-Kruger effect. I can hear it in your voice because you're saying, like, you didn't deserve it or something. Wondering what that is.
Maybe I'm just not as good as everybody else.
So Ray Mag, one of our mods, says to you, you can always remake that omelet. You can put some of the seasonings the other people used in the next one you make. Does that mean anything to you?
I mean, yeah. I could, like, okay, let's try what they do, but then I feel like I'm just copying them, and then feel like, oh man, you're just redoing what they did. Like, lack of originality.
You want to be original.
Yep.
So maybe that can come in time. Maybe that can come in time. Maybe you need time to hone your craft and figure out, like, it's one thing to be certified in a skill. It's one thing to receive a degree in something that says you're suited to do something. I guess I would say, how many brain surgeons graduate college with originality? What's that?
I mean, I said a fraction before you finish your sentence, but I mean, originality, I mean, there's no original surgery. I mean, pretty much surgeons follow one, maybe a few certified surgeries.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I'm saying. I would say, so a couple things. I would say a couple things. I would say, number one, like, can you celebrate what you finished? Can you celebrate that for yourself? That's a big win. That's a lot of school. That's I applauded you audibly, but the chat was also expressing celebration when you said what you said, that you'd finished. So I'm not the only one here that's happy to hear that you pressed through that and got through it, and successfully so. So I'm saying that, and then I'm also saying, like, so number one is, can you celebrate that for yourself, that you did that successfully? And then number two, can you appreciate a trade of an idea? Like, you got an idea from somebody else that did something else. You used the omelet we're using an omelet here as a metaphor, obviously, so I'll just continue using that. Like, someone makes an omelet a different way that you're gonna naturally, intuitively go about making an omelet. You can have two responses to that. You can say, this person made a more novel omelet than I made, and therefore I'm not important. Or you can say, this person made an omelet in a way I never thought to make it before. This person made a novel omelet. And I can either learn from that and perpetuate that idea. That's like a trade. That's why I'm using that word trade. Like, if somebody makes an omelet, if somebody has an idea for something that you didn't have an idea for, how valuable is something that's tasty? Something that's tasty is valuable, whether it's novel or not. People don't eat tasty food because it's novel. People can appreciate something that's novel, but people want tasty food. So using the omelet as an example, like, if somebody uses an ingredient that you don't use, can you consider that some kind of trade? Like, can somebody teach you something or give you an idea? And can you appreciate that idea for what it's worth, and maybe even adopt it in some way, shape, or form without degrading yourself?
You know, sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, I'm just so quick to focus on the negative. Like, you idiot, you stupid idiot, you. Like, even if it's just, like, even the criticism, like, hey, this is to help you, it's not to put you down. In my mind, like, yeah, that was stupid of you, dude. That was stupid of you.
You're really hard on yourself, it sounds like.
Yeah, and when I did celebrate my graduation, me and a couple of buds went down to the bars and everything, and soon, like, I was taking shots of vodka, Jaeger, and all this stuff, and you know how alcohol has different effects on people? Like, some people will go crazy, some people will be overexcited, others will just be depressed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the depressed guy.
Mm-hmm.
And
so,
I just broke my... Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'm listening.
So anyway, I broke down at a bar, and some of my friends and other people too who I just met that night, because they were my friends' friends, and they're like, dude, you celebrate a milestone. Look at you. And I'm just like, no, it's fake. It's all a facade.
It's not a facade. If that's a facade, then you should just go live in the jungle and be alone. Because college degrees are built on agreements between people. And people made this whole world we live in. People made this whole civilization thing. Civilization is built upon agreements, and part of that is a college degree. That's a big part of it, I would say. So for you to get one is not a facade. It's an agreement that everybody agrees is a good agreement. That's why you have a degree. Is it real like an apple is real? I don't think there's a good answer to that, because yeah, it's real, but it's not natural. I mean, you could argue if it's natural or not, actually. That's not a good choice of words. It's because it's natural for people to want to agree on things or to disagree. It's natural. People want to understand who they're dealing with. That's why we have a thing called a college degree, because nobody wants to walk into a surgery room and get surgery from someone who isn't qualified. Nobody wants to listen to news from somebody who isn't qualified. These are risky behaviors. So is something as intangible as a college degree as real as an apple? I would say yes, every bit as much, even though it's not tangible, even though it's kind of ethereal and you can't touch it. It's like people have agreed this stuff is real. It's as real as a dollar bill. I would equate a college degree to a dollar bill. That's the better example. Not an apple. Forget the apple. Is a dollar real? That's the better equation. Is a dollar bill real? Well, yeah, it's there. You can touch it in the same way you can touch your college degree. But the only reason a dollar bill is worth anything is because people agree that it's worth something. You've got something everybody agrees is worth something. And that's why we're celebrating that you got it. And it doesn't mean that other people aren't going to have original ideas, because they will. People all around you are going to continue having ideas you didn't have. That's normal. That's a part of life. Again, I don't have a degree in anything, so I'm trying to be sensitive, but I'll equate it the best way I can for myself personally, just to try to meet you somewhere in the middle. I love great comedy. I love a comedian, and there's no degrees. You can't get a degree in comedy, so far as I know. But I love great comedy. I love when somebody can say something to me that I didn't expect, that's tasteful and on point and real. If somebody can say something that's poignant and real and tasteful, I'm just floored by that. And there are so many jokes I've heard that I wish I came up with, but that doesn't stop me from wanting to be funny. It doesn't stop me from that. It doesn't squelch that impulse in me to make jokes about things. If anything, and maybe that's a muscle you'll need to practice. But for me, when I hear a great joke or watch or hear a great story, if I see a great piece of writing, I'm in a place in life where I can let that inspire me to explore more within myself. And I'm wondering what that sounds like to you. Do you think you can do that?
I mean, my writing, I do get inspired. I look at movies and books, and I try to, but I think I can kind of take some ideas and work around that.
Yeah.
I mean, in my spare time, I like I said, I write. I'm working on a sci-fi movie and mystery detective film.
Okay. So
I could go on and on about what those entail, but I don't want to waste your time.
Well, this isn't a place where we're going to get into the weeds on your movie idea or any idea in particular, because I'm not here to I'm not going to haphazardly weigh in on ideas or things like that. But I'm here to listen to what's beneath the ideas, what's underneath, what is driving the ideas, what is it that hangs us up? I mean, because that's what these are the kinds of things that create writer's block, and these are the kinds of things that create depression, and these are the kinds of things that create anxiety or just general dysfunction. So, we're not going to sit here and kick around ideas. We're not going to get ideological here, but
Sorry, I kind of got off topic.
no, you're not off topic. I'm just trying to very delicately, gently, without like hurting your feelings. I'm just letting you know, like we're not going to talk about ideas here, but we're going to talk about something in my mind that's more powerful than an idea. What is the demotivation you're feeling? That's deeper. That's
So, what
because these are
drives
the things
my
that hang us up.
ideas- So, basically, what you're saying is what drives my ideas.
Yeah. What is it that's got you so hung up on yourself? Like, and if I can say one more thing before you answer, because I think this is important and probably missing. I don't think I finished this thought, but the Dunning-Kruger effect can go both ways. So it's like somebody who's not very well equipped for something can assume they're really good at it because they're like their sphere of knowledge is like, we'll say, I don't know if you're seeing me here on the screen, but like let's say like somebody who is this circle I'm holding up a small circle, is indicating somebody who, this is the sphere of knowledge a novice has on a topic, but they think they have it all figured out because their circle's only this big. They haven't explored anything else beyond that. They haven't gone out into the outer space of that idea. So they think like, oh, I've got this under control. I'm a baller because I got this figured out, this little thing here. But they don't realize that people operating like 4, 5, 6 levels on top of them because of like professional experience or personal experience or age or whatever you want to call it. There are people out there that have like a world that can't even fit in this room, a sphere of knowledge that can't even fit in this room because they're just so proficient and efficient at what they do. So the point is not to disparage people who are just learning something, but like the Dunning-Kruger effect says that people who have like a tiny understanding of something tend to think they have a greater understanding than they really do because the tiny sphere of understanding that they have is pretty well figured. It's pretty well defined. It's pretty well understood. But the more you know, the less you know. So and Steve Jobs actually talked a lot about this before he died. There's a number of great Steve Jobs quotes on things he said, arguably speaking towards this Dunning-Kruger effect. But it can go both ways, meaning like somebody who's really proficient in something, like an expert, we'll use the term expert. So like an expert can have a really vast understanding of something and be overwhelmed by all the things they know they don't understand. So the more you know, the more you know about something, the more you know about what you don't know. And that can create like a insecurity in people if you're not careful. That can create an insecurity that you don't, because there's so much that you don't know, that you don't know anything, that you don't deserve anything you've earned. And that's a lie, because like I think people should just expect that the more they figure something out, the less they've got it figured out. That's what you're describing, in other words, is a healthy reaction to someone who's just leveled up in their knowledge of something. What I hear is the voice of somebody who's acknowledging they don't know everything. And I would say that's important, but you can't let that define you. You can't let that, you can't take what you've learned and throw it out the window and say, I don't know anything. I think it's a beautiful, humble approach to what you're describing. And you can't let that kill you. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What does that make you feel when I say that?
Sorry, I'm still processing this.
It's okay, take your time. Can I read something from the chat while you're thinking?
Sure.
This comes from Brand New Eyes 03. They say to you, I've struggled with these same feelings as a result of having imposter syndrome and a toxic level of expectations for myself. I understand also how graduating can be disorienting. Thank you for that, Brand New Eyes. I think that's great. On point.
You know, college is another chapter in my life that I just closed, and now I'm starting this next chapter. But at the same time, you know, I just feel like I'm still on that last chapter. I'm like, okay, when's the page turning? And this is not just something to just keep you quiet, but sometimes I do go through this, like, you know, maybe it's something on my end I need to do. Like, just, what's the word I'm looking for? The right mindset, essentially. I know that sounds cliche, but
well, there is a lot more for you to do. I mean, everything you're going to do is in front of you. You haven't done any of it yet. You've just been certified. I'm not arguing with you, to be clear. I'm not trying to downplay anything that you've done, because I'm the one here applauding you for finishing that degree. Even more so because you called in here weeks ago saying you were not motivated to finish it, and you were right there at the finish line, and you didn't know how to motivate yourself to finish it. And here you are, you've finished it, and you're questioning your future or your ability to compete in this space, your ability to contribute to this space. It's probably a better choice of words, but both are true, because you're competing, and while contributing, you're competing for the best solution to the problems at hand. So I'm saying it's amazing that you finished this college degree, that you pulled yourself up and said, you know what, no, I've come this far, I'm going to finish it. But you're kind of right that your whole life is still in front of you. You've still yet to do the things that you want to be known for. I'm assuming you don't want to die. I'm assuming on your tombstone when you die, you don't want it to be written, so-and-so was a proud owner of a college degree. I'm assuming you're not done yet, right? Like your whole life is in front of you. Now you're going to go out and prove that you have some value to contribute to the world, that you have some take that people can benefit from. And you do have something. I don't have to know you to know that, because everybody has something. Everybody has some experience, some challenge, some setback, some problem, some motivation to solve a specific problem. And the problem you're going to be really good at solving is not going to be the same problem the person making the other omelet is going to be good at solving. Sure, the other person making the other omelet that you might be impressed by will make some observations that you might wish you'd had. But these things can inspire us to make sure we're doing the best we can. And, you know, the person who's making the other omelet might have the idea to put bell peppers in the omelet. And you might be like, wow, that was a great idea, like bell peppers in an omelet, that's delicious. We can thank people that have, you don't have to like physically go to them and thank them. You can if you want, but I'm not saying, in saying this, I'm not suggesting we must like go physically thank people for making a new omelet. You know, just kidding. This example is getting spread pretty thin. I'm still hanging on to it though, because it's a good one. I like the omelet. But it's to say that like we can have a sense of gratitude for people who have different ideas than we're going to have. Everybody else is going to have ideas you'd wish you'd had. In some area of life, you're going to be hopefully inspired by the people who are around you. I mean, that's what life is. And I guess what I'm saying is, like, for you, the omelet you make might not have the idea to put bell peppers in your omelet, but maybe you'll have the idea to put like some kind of, I'm trying to think of some obscure ingredient that could be put into an omelet that would be delicious. Like you might have some like rare form of mushroom that's like, you know, you might put truffles in an omelet or something like that, you know, like you're gonna put something else into an omelet that will be a contribution to people around you, and other people can be inspired by that. So like in writing, you're not going to choose the same words everybody else is going to choose, and that's the beauty of it. That's what trade is. That's what makes the world go round. Trade makes the world go round, because people are going to do different things. People are going to make different observations and have different insights. People have different experiences. And I guess I'm I guess I'm asking, can you find a place in your head where that's okay, where you still have value, even if someone else has an idea you wish you had?
Yeah, I suppose. Sorry if I'm not elevated enough, but baby steps.
No, you don't need to apologize. I'm just asking the direct question. I mean, I think from I don't know you, but from the sound of it, that would be a good question to ask is, can I appreciate an omelet someone else makes with an ingredient I wished I had come up with so much that it inspires me and motivates me to think about what it is that I'm going to contribute next. You know, like, what is the thing that you will contribute? Maybe you've yet to find that. That's okay.
Yeah. And you mentioned what are the roots of my ideas, and honestly, I just write from negative energy, essentially. But I am inspired by always, like, my stories involve, like, common themes of, like, corruption, you know, the dark side of humanity, and just betrayal and stuff. Essentially,
so you gravitate.
negative.
Yeah. I was sensing that when you were speaking. It's like you have a proclivity for the negative energy in the world.
Every time I turn on the news, you know, I that 6-year-old who shot his teacher, or those parents who neglected their children and starved them and beat them, and just all this evil. I mean, you could say, like, oh, just turn off the news. Like, it's not that I purposely look up this stuff. Like, I just stumble upon it, and I'm just breaks my heart how cruel humanity. Like, not all people are bad and evil. I understand that. I'm not saying everyone, but just the evil. It's just so blown up. You know, it's just hard to avoid and read.
Right. Yeah, it is hard. And if you're going to be working in journalism, there's going to be a lot of negativity, because a lot of what's in the news is new. And most of the time, we should expect that to be bad stuff because it's new. In other words, we're not going to hear about the millions of planes that successfully land each year. We're going to hear about the handful that don't land successfully. We're not going to report on every plane that successfully lands. We're going to report on the couple that don't each year, and that's going to be news. So maybe you've gotten into the right field if you have a tendency to find value in the darker aspects of life. Makes me wonder, are you familiar with the work of Carl Jung? Have you read Carl Jung? Have you read other psychologists who have built frameworks on top of his ideas? Carl Jung, he talks about incorporating the shadow part of your personality and maturing that and incorporating it.
I can't say that I have.
Okay, I'm gonna suggest a book to you. Have we talked about? You said we've talked a few times. I remember this general line of thought. If you had told me we'd talked a few times, I probably would be struggling to remember all that we've covered. So I don't know if we've talked about this book, Existential Kink. Have we talked about that book?
Existential Kink?
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall.
I'm going to put this in the chat for you. I feel like maybe I would have suggested this book based on the stuff that you're talking about, but it's possible we haven't gone here in conversation, so maybe this is the first time it's come up. But I would implore you to at least read the description in this link I sent you and consider whether it's a book you might want to read, because you're talking about a lot of... If you're a person who has a strong shadow and you haven't incorporated that, you haven't integrated your shadow into yourself, then you might have some you might have some energy imbalance. I hate saying terms like that because it feels so like mushy and intangible, and it means so many different things to different people. But I really believe Carl Jung is onto some stuff here. And I believe that's the reason why so many psychologists have had different ideas around this idea in the wake of his work. I think he struck a chord. I don't think anybody can shake a stick at that Carl Jung was right about a lot of stuff. The shadow, everybody has a shadow. It's not to say that like everybody has like skeletons in their closet or like some like, it's not, the shadow isn't evil per se. It's just like it's like yin and yang. Like everything has energy and it ebbs and flows and goes up and down. And I guess the way I'd put it is that in social life, in society, we expect only like positive vibes from people. In fact, I've seen this on t-shirts. Am I the only one that's seen that t-shirt? It's like good vibes only. I think that is the worst 3 words in sequence I've ever heard. Good vibes only. It's so dismissive. It's so like, wow, you want only good vibes. I'm not saying people should walk around like wearing their heart on their sleeves or like, pouring out their biggest hardships like in a work space or like you got to know your audience. You got to know where you're sharing. But like, I think what you're describing is a big problem today, that a lot of people don't know how to interact with their shadow in a positive way. They don't know how to integrate their shadow. And Carl Jung's work was largely revolving around the shadow. Existential Kink is not written by Carl Jung. It's written by Carolyn Elliott. She's a PhD psychologist. It's an amazing book, very interesting book. It's a synthesis of the work of Carl Jung and Freud and Nietzsche and a couple of others that I'm forgetting at the moment here. But amazing, very fascinating book. She actually has a program called Existential Kink that you can pay her for. Like she'll do it like group work with people who want to do it's like a retreat. You go travel to her and spend like a week with her. And she works through people. She works with people through their existential kinks. She calls them existential kinks. It's basically like a shadow. She uses that word kink because of the shadow element, which is like, a kink is something you do in the bedroom behind closed doors because it's like something that would be in any other setting like repulsive to yourself or others. It's like that's what a kink is. It's like some people, that's why it's called a fetish or a kink, is it's like in any other circumstance you wouldn't want it, but like with a intimate partner behind a closed door, it's kinky, and her premise of this book is that we make comfortable spaces for ourselves to live in that are like existential kinks, and we keep ourselves there even though we say we don't want to be there. It's kind of I'm not doing it justice. It's going to sound like I'm saying, it's going to sound like I'm telling you, just get over your problems and find a new life. It sounds actually maybe dismissive in a cliff note, but this book is fascinating. This book walks you through a framework of how to kind of laugh at these things that hold us back in life and get comfortable with them, like a kink, and just to acknowledge that it's a kink, that we can keep ourselves locked in these places in life without knowing it until we address it. And a lot of that involves incorporating and integrating the shadow. This is all just her work I'm regurgitating, but I've read this book, fascinating book. The audiobook is great. I don't love a lot of audiobooks, but this one's a great audiobook, Existential Kink. What does that sound like to you when I say that stuff?
When you brought up kink, I was just like, wait, is this like porn or something? And
that's right. That's a proper response. I did say kink. It's not my book. I didn't write it. I wish I had written it. It's a great book. Fascinating book. But I think there's truth to it. I think there's truth to it.
I get what you're trying to say, and I appreciate that, but anything that deals with fetish and sexuality stuff, not that I'm trying to downplay anyone who's into that stuff. If that's what you want to do, awesome, but it's just a little too much for me.
Now, listen, to be clear, I'm not saying that this is a sexual book. It's not a sexual book. It's not a book about sex at all. It's just called Existential Kink. Read the description. Check out check it. I'm not asking you to buy the book or go to her retreat, but the book is not about sex. It's just a clever name.
I see what you mean. My bad.
Yeah.
And
so yeah, I think it's not a sex book, but it's a clever play on words. She's equating the shadow, which everyone has according to the work of Jung and a number of other psychologists and philosophers who are prolific from that time and mindset. It's equating that to a kink, which is like, hey, it's basically a way of saying like people feel ashamed about something. Like you're not going to go up to everybody. So first and foremost, everybody has some kind of kink. Everybody has something that turns them on. That's kind of like, it's not unique, like no kink is completely unique. That's why it's called a kink and not like a crime. It's like everybody has a kink, something that's like you're not going to talk about to like your boss or a coworker that you don't know very well. Like you might tell a close friend, like, hey, do you find it like attractive when someone does XYZ or something like that? Like you might talk to a close friend about a kink, but like not most people in your life you're going to talk to about something that turns you on. And shadow, she's equating shadow work to that. So it's not that this is a book about sex. It's not about sex at all. It's about shadows. And she's making a clever play on words, calling it a kink.
I see. And since we were talking about books, have you ever heard of Watchmen?
It's a comic book, right?
Yeah, Alan Moore.
Yeah. Of course.
And do bear with me, but there's a character in there called Rorschach. Like Rorschach, those ink blot cards they show prisoners during psychological evaluation. Say, hey, what do you see here?
Right, Rorschach.
And since we were talking about negative energy, in a way that graphic novel has kind of shaped my life, just how Rorschach he's so focused on the bad and in the world that he's just so obsessed that evil must be punished because he sees the world in black and white. What's good is good, what's bad is bad. There's no middle area, there's no gray. And just how he's so consumed by the evils of the world that's what sends him over the edge. I mean, it basically shows the dark side of superheroes, but it really, what makes it really stand out because it feels real. This isn't Batman or Superman. Like this is like, the grim side of heroes if they were real and what would they be like? And Rorschach was the only one that felt the most real to me. So much evil in this world that it drives you over the edge. It's like what Friedrich Nietzsche said: if you stare into the abyss gazes also.
Mm-hmm. So you think this Rorschach character from Watchmen is real? Not that you think he's physically real, but you think the phenomenon is real. That there are such thing as like, how would you put that? You think that phenomenon is real? You think it's so simple? I mean, to me, it just sounds like a character.
I mean, not immediately does someone snap like that, but over long periods of time. I mean, read the character's backstory. I mean, it was a long series of events that drove him to become what he is.
I mean, people made Rorschach in all of their nuance. That's part of what makes a novel a novel. It's part of what makes a novel novel. It's novel because it's interesting. It's different from the normal experience. It's kind of an escape. That's what stories are. That's what characters are. They're kind of it's novel. So if it's that novel to people, is the phenomenon real? Is it real that it's that simple? Sizing up the world in that way, like a character would.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's just there was just something about that really spoke to me. Just
Yeah, I think
my
that's good.
negative
I mean, you're
energy and how I just how I view the world and how he views the world. And I'm not saying I'm like extreme like him, but just that hatred towards all the evil in the world that you're like something has to be done.
yeah, I'm not familiar enough with Watchmen to comment specifically, but I'm speaking in generalities here, just to be clear, because I don't know I know of it, but I don't know it well. So I'm maybe struggling to keep up. I don't know what I'm at this point now. I'm speaking on things I don't know Watchmen enough to draw.
It's a great graphic
Equip.
novel. You should look into it sometime.
Okay, yeah, I know it's very famous. But I'm saying, like, in general, people are not characters, and characters in stories are novel strictly because of that, because it's not real, because it's like, hey, here's a crazy idea for a world. It's like, here's a string of characters, and yeah, characters can emulate things that are real, but characters are not real. Our lives are not movies. I think that's why people love movies, is because a movie makes it seem so simple. It's like, here's a character and here's their problem, and then they overcome it, and everybody lived happily ever after. Or sometimes it's like, and nobody lived happily ever after. There's two kinds of movies, right? There's actually probably three kinds of movies where it's like, you get a resolution, it's like a happy ending, or you don't get the happy ending, or you get something that's kind of suggested, like the end of Inception. There's no clear ending. It's like, it makes the audience ask what's going on. And these are like the three different ways movies and stories are commonly wrapped up. Life is not so simple. And I think you'll probably find that naturally as you go on in life. I'm not suggesting you think life is a movie. I'm not trying to insult you. And you would have stumbled upon this, in my estimation, you would have stumbled upon this with or without this phone call, naturally, just going through life, that the things that we can identify with in different characters, it can be a valuable thing, but it doesn't make it like, sometimes we have to, sometimes a character can't really add the value that we're looking for it to. I'll use a counter example. There was a caller a few weeks ago who called in, and they were saying they wanted to do something more with their life. They were tired of playing video games, and they wanted to do something else with their life besides just like play video games all night. And I talked to this person for a while, and it came out that they really loved Spider-Man. They were really attracted to the archetype of Spider-Man, the character of Spider-Man. And because Spider-Man always does good things for his community. He's not just like a superhero out beating up bad guys. He's also like helping elderly women across the street and, like, you know, doing things for kids in his community. He's like a noble guy. So I'm not saying that like characters can't inspire us to be better people or something like that, but I think we have to be we have to be very careful with characters who, specifically characters who are like existing in some kind of negative energy. I think we have to be really careful with that, because that can breed insecurity if we look too much to characters for guidance, because they're just characters. You know, they're not like, it's one thing to feel inspired by how Spider-Man is not just a superhero out there beating up bad guys, but he's also somebody who cares about kids and the elderly. It's another thing when we get caught up by characters like, I'll use a different example, like Thanos. You know, like so many people are entranced by Thanos because he's such a good bad guy, right? He's like, he wants to kill a bunch of people for reportedly a really good cause. That's his goal. He's like, when there's too many people, we got to kill some people. And it's like they make a really good argument in that story for Thanos' character, so that the audience has a real dilemma in how they get through that story. We have to be really careful with anti-heroes like that, in my mind, because an anti-hero is just that. They're an anti-hero. They're like somebody that could breed insecurity if we read too much into what they're doing and saying. They could breed contempt. They could breed all kinds of negative things if we're not careful. It's one thing to feel inspired by a character. It's another thing to let a character allow you to crawl inside your own brain and keep you there. Because once you get too introspective, there's no pulling yourself out. You're just stuck there. It's going to take a lot more work to get you out than it took to get you in. So I think that we got to be really careful with how much we identify with an anti-hero. Like Walter White would be another great example. One of my favorite shows ever, probably my favorite, number one ever, Breaking Bad. Walter White's a great example. It's like, nobody's out there trying to be Walter White. We saw how it ended. I don't know if anything I'm saying is making. What's that?
Ironically, I have called out people on like videos online saying, "Oh, Walter White's a great guy." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? He literally poisoned a child, and you're going to stick by him?" I mean, I'm guilty on that end there. But I get what you're saying. Don't identify close with those people, or it's going to really influence you the wrong way.
Well, they're not people. I'd say that's also true of Spider-Man. Like, if you could take it further, you could take it just as far with Spider-Man, but I think it'd actually be harder. I think there's probably a lot more people that wrestle with characters like Thanos or Walter White or even this Rockshore. I think you're saying it differently. Rorschach is how I say it. I think you say Rorschach. Is that what you're saying? I don't know which is right in Watchmen, but it sounds like it's referencing a Rorschach ink blot test. Point is, like, I think people struggle with these kind of negative characters more. They struggle with them more than they do like a character like Spider-Man. But I think you can take it just as far with a character like Spider-Man, because none of these things are real. These are all just figments of writers' imaginations. They're there for entertainment. They're not there for us to it's not a roadmap for life. It's actually something I think about. I'm not sure if this is what you're saying, but it's a concern that I have, that like too many people take movies too seriously, or that people are raised in a media culture that leads them to believe that their life is a movie in some way, shape, or form, or that like their life will play out like a movie. People tend to like only think about themselves in life. It's very difficult for a lot of people to think about things from a different perspective, or how someone else is seeing something. That's a very difficult skill for people to exercise and practice. And so I'm not sure if this applies here, but you're touching on something that concerns me as somebody who's spent most of his career in entertainment and producing things that people watch. It's like, I mean, I'm not concerned about this for myself, because I don't expect that anybody's out there trying to be Mr. Tim or something like that. Like, my characters are so absurd and cartoony that it's like kind of, I trust nobody's out there trying to be these people. But like a character like Spider-Man or Frodo Baggins or Neo or, I can think of hundreds of examples of characters people would like to be like, and all of this stuff is just things people made up.
Right.
So, I don't know if that's helpful to hear, but
it's a start.
But I want you to. I wonder if you can tell us something that you're proud of about yourself for the work you've done in getting this college degree. Can you tell us something that you're proud of? Something specific?
Proud of. Like, I know there's some, but I'm just thinking like before or after that I got it.
What's one thing that you're really proud of that led you to the success of this college degree? Something you had to press through, something you didn't think you would get that you finally did get, something that like you stood up in the face of opposition for and succeeded.
I'm proud of the fact that I retook the one class that that I had to retake. Like I said, I could have just like, screw this, I'm done. But I told myself, you know what, I want to try this again. I really want to get that diploma, and I just made myself determined to not have to take this class again the third time, and I got a much better grade. It was a 72 this time, but it's not a D.
You did it. You pressed through. You took the class you didn't want to take again, and you passed. Maybe is it possible that's why you're so insecure about this, because you didn't get like an A+ in that class, in that one class? Is that maybe partially why you're doubting that validity of this college degree you earned?
No, it was a media law class. Like it wasn't straight up. What is it, A, B, or C? It's like, how does X apply to Y? And there's anything involving law is just so confusing. Like, how would this work in this case? And does someone have a case in this scenario? I'm just like, I don't know. Law is just like physics.
Yeah, it's not a bad comparison. It's a lot like physics. So yeah, maybe that's not the best point to zero in on then, from my perspective. The point about were you just unhappy because you didn't get the grade you wanted? Maybe it's not that. Maybe it's that you really just don't believe that there's any value in anything that you've just studied. And if that's the case, I would implore you to consider what it is that drove you to pursue that degree. Nobody presses through a degree like that for no reason. Taking a media law class, like, that's a pretty intense. I've never taken it, but I can tell just from those two words together, from what I understand about media and law independently, that that's going to be a pretty gruesome class. Can you find it? Can you, maybe I would implore you to do some work to meditate on what it is that you found attractive about this degree. There must be something that will keep you going. There must be something that will motivate you to keep going. And I would say, like, you don't owe us an answer right here and now, but you clearly have something to offer. You clearly are motivated to do this work, or you wouldn't have finished the class. And I would hope you can find what that is. In fact, I'd bet you can find what that is.
I do know what it is.
There you go.
Like I can do video stories all day. I also took an independent study for my capstone. That's like the make or break class for your senior semester. And when I was over the summer, when I was doing it, I did this one on mental health. I did one on how schools are keeping safe in the wake of the El Paso tragedy, and I did one on my college's hockey team, which originally I was going to do, on some guy who was like a former Army colonel who now helps Muslim migrants essentially get a better life. And this is perfect. I asked him, hey, would you be interested? He's like, oh, thanks, but no thanks. I'm like, darn it.
Right.
Then I thought, well, I do hockey. I have plenty of B-roll because I film their games for them. And my professor in that captain was like, look, I don't care about conflicts of interest. I just want to see you. I want to see your storytelling capabilities. I'm like hockey. Why didn't I just do hockey that whole time? And I'm not going to go into specifics of what it is, but it worked. That's the final story that sealed it.
That's great to hear. I want to leave you with two closing thoughts from the chat. We try to keep calls here to about 30 minutes. We've been talking for about an hour now. I do want to open the lines up to other callers, but I find this topic fascinating. I'm not cutting you off. But I want to close on 2 thoughts from the chat. This first one is from King's Pawn. He's one of our mods here. He said this earlier. He says to you, to fight the negative energy, you must feed it positive energy, which is totally true, I think. Reward yourself with something that feeds your positive side. You got this. And then the next thing I wanted to read comes from Aaron Inman. I hope I'm saying that right. They say to you, I think the value of an education comes later. Awful to hear. I'm a recent grad too. Find ways to apply the knowledge you obtained, no matter how large it may be. You are educated. Share it with the world.
Okay.
Either of those mean anything to you?
What the recent grad said, your college education comes in handy much later, and frankly, I agree. It's a rough start. I've applied for jobs left and right, and I'm lucky if I get an interview, but in the end, they'll say, well, thank you for your time, but we found someone more qualified. And I mean, my dad's a former firefighter, and it took him like a year to get onto the force.
So let's see that determination. Sorry, go ahead.
And he told me, son, I had to wait a year to get the career I wanted, but look where I am now. He told me, it doesn't matter. Like it's okay if it takes a while. Just keep pushing through.
Yeah, keep trying. Keep trying. Yeah, Aiden Yelsma from the chat says, I hate that message. I got it earlier today. Yeah, nobody likes hearing that message, but I trust that the fact that you, the caller, said it means that it meant something to you. And there's a reason that we're taught that story in kindergarten, that little engine that could story is such a good one. I think I can. And it huffs and puffs all the way up that hill. I think it's a great message that at least I'm grateful I was taught when I was 5 years old. I think that book is very powerful. I think it's a powerful book.
Yeah.
Well, lines are always open to you. I know you're a return caller, but you can call again anytime. I'm wishing you the best as always. I'm still wishing you the best. Would love to hear more updates. Hope things continue to go in your favor. I'm going to applaud you again for pushing through that college, because I remember from our previous conversation that was not easy. And I think that's incredible that you pushed through and you got that degree. That degree means something. That degree is incredibly powerful. And you won't stumble your way into the perfect job right out of college, of course, but you got the degree. You pushed through and you didn't even want to finish, and you did it. You did that. That's amazing. So I've applauded you twice for that, because I want to pump you up. I want you to feel seen for what you did. I want you to see yourself for what you did.
Thanks, Julian.
Thank you. Call again anytime.
Good night.
Good night. Chat, amazing thoughts there during that call. Thank you guys for all of that. I know it meant a lot to the caller. I trust it meant a lot to the caller. I don't know, but they responded well to the thoughts. I felt I wasn't alone. So that was great. We are going to reopen the lines. I need to take a bathroom break. I'm going to run to the restroom real quick, and then I'll be right back. I just can't help it. I'm so hydrated during these streams. I'm never more hydrated than during these streams. I've just got this giant pitcher of water. Never at any other point of the week do I just have a giant pitcher of lemon water all to myself here. Usually it's one glass at a time. I'm too hydrated. I'll be right back in about 60 seconds enough time for me to run to the restroom and wash my hands. Full disclosure, it might be like 80 seconds because I am going to wash my hands. Coming right back. All right, we are back. Whoa, I hit my mic. Lines are opening again. We will hang here for a minute. We got about 40 minutes left in the stream tonight. And if nobody calls in, we will turn to the Anonymous Confessions channel from the Discord server. If you're just checking in with us, we've got a Discord server that's completely free to join. Link is in the description. It's just a community of people that hang out every day, and everybody uses it differently, is my understanding. Some people are in there just to goof off. Some people are in there to play games. Some people are in there to talk about books they're reading. Some people are in there to meet people who want to be there for difficult conversations. So the Discord community is beautiful and a very intentional aspect of this project. I see that from Aiden Yelsma. Did I wash my hands? Yes, I did wash my hands. They are squeaky clean. I'm very hygienic. I don't take washing my hands lightly. In fact, I tell my kids, wash for 30 seconds with warm water. Has to be warm. My kids hate it when I say that. We're jumping into another call. Here we go. Hello, thanks for calling.
Hey, Julian.
Hello. Can we start with your age and a brief intro?
Yes, sir. I am 23, about to be 24 this year. And I'm going to be either going into military soon or starting school after about 3 years of just working at different jobs in this limbo period. And recently I have undergone this kind of religious, I guess, baptism, and found a new direction in my life through that. But it is not
really given me any clear answers of like what my next steps are, and that's like the only thing that I really want to know is like where I should go, like my next steps, like from here. And I feel like a big thing that stops me from just doing like one of those things is going to be like fear of inadequacy, or I don't know. Maybe it's something like stage fright where I'm just like afraid of messing up.
Fear of failure.
Yeah.
Fear of failure in what? The military? Your newfound faith? All of the above?
I'd say failure in regard to living up to the expectation of others, because I see everyone else around me and I think, what's wrong with me, you know?
Are
Like, why
others
am I so
relying on
different?
you? Do you have dependents? Do you have people that are depending on you? Or is it just like a pressure from parents and family and friends?
It would be closer to a pressure, yeah. And I have been very blessed financially. And I look back at it feels like all the years that I've wasted, right? And it's like I've done nothing with this life I've been blessed with. And I can't help but think about that all the time. Like, why aren't I doing anything, you know? And I don't know, just feeling kind of some philosophical vibes right now.
Yeah, so just a couple things before we go any deeper. I just want to make sure you understand this is anonymous. We haven't had a toast here in a long time. Do you know what toast is?
No.
All right, I'm glad that I asked. Toast is our only mechanism to protect your anonymity here in this way, because I don't know who you are. We just ask that you remain completely anonymous. No names, no locations, no names of anybody involved in your story as we continue to talk. That's to protect you, so that anything you say here can't be used against you later, so that you can be completely honest and speak about whatever it is that's precisely on your mind tonight. So that's for you. Toast is when I hang up on people because they have doxed themselves. So don't dox yourself, and we'll talk as long as it takes. So fear of failure. Fear of failure. Let's talk more about that. Like, are you, did you grow up under pressure? Like, did you grow up in a pressurized environment?
I say yes to that, but it came more from, I went to I grew up in an area where it was kind of like middle to high class, I could say. And the pressure was seeing like friends and people I grew up with like attaining like these like getting like all this stuff done, and my family or my friends being like, oh, what about you? Like, what are you doing? You know, I'm not like saying that to me, but like that's what I felt. Does that make sense?
Yeah, is it like keeping up with the Joneses kind of stuff? Not in a materialistic sense. Oh, keeping up with the Joneses. Maybe it's not the most accurate term, but it's usually a term. It's like, hey, my neighbors are doing XYZ, so I should be doing ABC. It's like keeping up with the Jones. Like the Joneses live next door, proverbially.
Yeah,
That's what
I would say that's pretty accurate. So that was kind of me trying to measure up to people I knew. And then I had this part of my life where I grew out of that for a bit, and I didn't want to think about anything. I mean, got into drugs, the absence of thought. Just, I don't care what anyone thinks. I don't care what I think. Like, everything's going to work out, right? Like, I can just, party on, every weekend, and like, I still have humanity. And I got out of that, thankfully. And I'm back where I started. And so I want some, I don't know, like, there must be more, right? Like, people are actually happy, right?
That has to be one of my favorite questions ever asked on this stream. People are actually happy, right? That should be on a t-shirt, for crying out loud. Oh my God, that's so funny. That is so funny.
Thanks for laughing.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing because it was a genius series of words that I did not expect. Yeah, I hope I'm not the only one laughing. But
I'm laughing, but thank you.
Yeah.
And I really did mean that.
Yeah. I'm trying to be careful. I'm trying to acknowledge that was a hilarious way to put that, while also acknowledging that it's, I can tell it's a very serious thing for you that you're trying to get to the bottom of. It makes me wonder a bunch of things. So just to be clear, like, I don't know what it's like to grow up in, like a upper class way. I was raised, when I was very young, my parents didn't have a lot of money, at all. So I'm not sure how to crawl into that headspace that you're describing. It's a little foreign to me. But I also think that a lot of people, I would say what you're describing is a very mammalian thing. I'm going to try to dissect it, and you can point out where I'm touching on something that feels relevant and what doesn't feel relevant, because I'm going to be shooting in the dark here, trying to find the walls. It's my belief that, and it's not just blind faith for me. It's like based on things that I've read about being the pack animals that we are, the social creatures that we are. Nobody wants to just take up space. Nobody wants to just be like dead weight. That's why we have that term dead weight. It's a term for a reason. Nobody wants to be dead weight. Everybody wants to contribute something. That is to say that we all inherently, automatically take up space, no matter where we are. If you're in a room with 100 people or 5,000 people or 2 people, you're taking up space.
I'm pretty skinny.
Yeah, I'm also there with you. I wish I could gain some weight. Wish I could gain some muscle mass. Nothing works. Any tips? I'm all ears. But you're taking up space. If you're alive and you're in a room with other people, you're taking up space wherever you are. Nobody wants to be dead weight. So part of what I'm hearing you say is that you don't want that. You don't want to just be dead weight. You don't want to let people down. You have something that you have some standard you're holding yourself to. You want people to feel that you've contributed something, and you haven't just taken from everybody else. You haven't just taken something from the world. You want to be remembered for something you contributed, so that your life can feel justified, so that your life can feel meaningful, so that others can say that they had a positive experience of you, that you, and it's more than just chasing a good review. Like, you're not after from what I'm understanding, you're not after like a positive Yelp review for a human. Like if Yelp existed for humans, maybe we could call that Twitter. But you know, the point is that that's not what you're after. But you want people to like genuinely experience you the way you experience yourself. It sounds like you want people to feel that you cared. You want people to feel that you did your best. You want people to feel like when they're around you, you're not taking from them, but that you're giving something. Am I tracking so far?
Yeah, can I interject real quick?
Yeah.
I think you're pretty correct about most of that, and I do feel like dead weight sometimes, a lot of the time, and you know that's just me like picking up like social cues, right? And it's like, well, how can I be better? How can I find purpose? To make myself stand out. And I'm just having trouble like finding those things that I truly care about. And it makes me feel like I'm not going to find those things. Like I am dead weight. And that's a very sad thing to say, I think. But I wouldn't be here talking to you about it if I didn't think there was, an actual, answer to, or a thought process, to help me out with that. I do have hope. But it's going to be like, I'm going to have to be very different because that, I guess, pressure, it seeps into like every part of my life. And it's like if I could just like have more self-respect or not feel like a piece of crap, then maybe my life would be together.
What's the worst thing that ever happened to you? I'm going somewhere with that. I'm not just trying to tell horror stories, but what memory sticks out when you think of the worst thing that you ever encountered, the deepest sense of remorse?
So it's actually, I could bring up two things. So one of them being something that I did to someone else. And then, so that was, my little brother's girlfriend. I slept with her, and I never really fully forgave myself for that because it's such like it just felt like dirty, like forever tainted. And then that was just like, that felt like it was against myself, right? And then the worst thing that's happened to me, I guess, would be my best friend dying in third grade.
I would say that's a very charitable response because you didn't just tell us one bad thing that happened to you, but you told us another bad thing that you were responsible for.
that was the first thing that popped in my head. I felt like it was appropriate.
Yeah, even more so charitable. That is the first thing that popped into your head. You know, what I hear in your voice is that you felt you had violated someone that you loved, with the first story that you slept with your brother's girlfriend.
Yeah, that is what I was getting at. Is it was myself that I violated in that.
Yeah. And then the second thing you mentioned was you lost a close friend when you were young. I mean, it sounds like it must have been gut-wrenching to lose a friend in 3rd grade. And that's a lot. I've got a kid who's in 3rd grade. If my kid in 3rd grade lost one of their friends, I would be shaken up by that. Like, that's way too young for someone to die. Like, that's so sad. So the common theme I'm hearing in these stories is that, like, is a theme of loss. You don't want people, it's this loss theme again. You don't want people to feel like something's been taken from them. And here you are about to embark on a journey in the military. You're going into the military. Thank you in advance for your service. That's a massive contribution to society. My guess is that you're about to you're in for I can only speculate, of course. I've never been in the military, but I have a lot of family who's been in the military, and I've read some books on the experience of people in the military, just so I can understand friends and family of mine who've been involved in it. And if your experience is anything like those I've heard of, you will be in for a pretty you'll be in for a pretty rude awakening. As I'm sure you know, like, the military is not easy. It's going to be tough. Like, if anybody goes and joins the military, like, that's a pretty strong person that's going to go and do that. It's a massive contribution. And that sounds like somebody who wants exactly what you're saying, that you want to contribute more than you take from the world.
That's a good way of putting it.
And people are about to see that. You're about to go do one of the hardest things anybody can do for their community. And that's why I'm thanking you in advance for your service. And I also think it's beautiful that you can sit here and share, even if it's anonymous, that you can say, I feel bad about something that happened between me and my little brother and his girlfriend years ago. I don't know. You didn't say years ago, to my memory anyways, but I don't know when it happened, to be clear. But something happened in the past. I asked you to tell me the worst thing that ever happened, and you mentioned something bad that happened to you, but you also mentioned something bad that you did to somebody else. And I'm not trying to zero in on those to, like, make you feel bad. I'm doing it for the opposite, because the fact that you're able to speak to those things, so, like, they came to you so quickly. They just came to you so quickly. I asked you, and the first thing you mentioned is a regret you had. I think that says a lot about your character. And I think that, you know, if you grew up in a place of privilege, it's possible, at least, that you might not know these kinds of questions might be natural. I don't know. I mean, I think, to be fair, I think everybody deals with these questions because, again, we're social creatures. Nobody wants to just take up space in an unjust way. Everybody wants to feel like they're contributing something and that they're not just taking from people. Everybody wants to feel like they're contributing something. But if you grew up privileged, you know, the reason I focus on, like, what are some hardships you've experienced? What are the difficult things? The reason I went there is because I think that some of the most meaningful things in life to us, and they're different for everybody. You know, I could tell you I'm passionate about, you know, making pancakes, which I am. I was trying to think of something that's true and ridiculous. I'm passionate about making pancakes. I'm very passionate about.
It's a difficult thing. is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's right. It's not inherently difficult. Like, there's no hardship involved in making pancakes. It's like, I can be passionate about that, but it's not like meaningful. It's not like a contribution to give. In fact, you could argue it's assault to serve someone pancakes. I almost hit the rim shot there, but I refrained from doing so. The point is that, like, I think that we derive meaning from difficult things in life, because I think the world is full of problems, and I think that people need a good problem to solve, or their life will feel meaningless. I think people need to feel like their life stood to solve a meaningful problem, and nobody can tell you what that problem is for you. Only you can decide what that is. Only you can decide what your life should stand for. But I think, my personal philosophy is that people need a good problem to solve, and that's what people spend their life doing. And most people can contribute towards solving one problem. Some people get lucky and they can solve many problems while they're alive. Some people can solve a lot of different problems. There's so many polarizing, well-known figures today that I'm struggling to find one that I couldn't get ridiculed for mentioning. But I'm thinking of people like Temple Grandin. I'm thinking of people like Elon Musk. Love him or hate him, he's solving a lot of problems. He's also making a lot of problems, to be fair. But I'm mentioning people that like are putting, like, these are high impact people who are focusing on a problem or several problems and are able to be effective in delivering solutions to those problems. Love them or hate them. These people, it's easy to hate prolific people, I think, but because they're so public. But I've only mentioned two people. Let's think of somebody less inflammatory than Elon Musk. I mentioned Temple Grandin. That's a great one.
She's scientist, maybe.
Temple Grandin solved many problems. I'm thinking of scientists. I'm thinking of Feynman. I'm thinking of Hawking. I'm thinking of Darwin. I'm thinking of like all these people that contributed. Like they did their whether these people have all been right and wrong about different things, but these people did their best to contribute something to humanity, and many of them, everybody I've mentioned offered something that worked to people. And my guess would be that everybody, this is my belief at least, that everybody arrives at those axioms, not by mistake, but through experience. Everybody decides for themselves what's meaningful because of the things that they've experienced. And for you, it'll be different from somebody else because of the life that you've lived, the place that you were brought up in. All of these things are factors that go into determining what your life will mean. And so as much as I wish I don't sense that you're here for me to wave a magic wand and solve your problems, because I can't do that, and I'm guessing you know that. But what I hear you saying is a great question, and a question from somebody who is clearly not going to just take advantage of their surroundings. You don't want to just take; you want to contribute. And everybody has regrets. Everybody has things they wish they had done differently. That's the value of an apology. That's the value of acknowledging when you're wrong. And making those things right, because these things create a roadmap for others of what's acceptable. Like, in other words, if you had betrayed your brother and not ever come to the realization that that was bad, now you've put the idea in your brother's head that, like, the only way to get ahead is to just cheat and, like, betray people. So our lives do mean something. Our lives are can be an inspiration to others, or they can be hurtful to others. They can be depressing to others. So I think I'm trying to encourage you. I hope it doesn't sound like I'm trying to focus on too much of the bad stuff you said, but I admittedly asked you to go there because I was trying to arrive at what meaning is, at least to me. And I think that the meaning comes from the difficulty of life. And nobody can tell you what that is, but whatever that is that hurts you inside, whatever that is that you feel pain from, whatever that is that you care about. We don't care about things that are thriving. You know, like, does anybody care about Elon Musk? I'll invoke his name again against my point from earlier. Does anybody care how Elon Musk feels right now? Like, I don't think there's many people that care if Elon Musk is having a good day or a bad day. I'm not trying to dog on the guy. I'm just saying, like, people care about vulnerable things. People care about things that need care for. I'm not trying to be inflammatory here. I'm just saying, like, I think that meaning comes from the hardships of life. We care about things that we've seen firsthand suffer. And so therefore I can't tell you what's important to you, but I think you will find it.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I'm not trying to leave you empty-handed. Does that make sense?
No, you're good. I'm just taking some time to marinate in it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
What
would make this a good call? What questions do you have? What would make this a good call?
Well, I told you earlier, I've been recently baptized, and one might say, "Oh, well, you have all the answers to the questions you just asked now, don't you? Since God is the answer, right?" But it's not really that simple. It can't be, because if it were, then Jesus comes back, right? And according to what I believe, like, end of the world stuff, blah, blah, blah. Like, at that point, my life would still hold, as much meaning as it does, right? Or as I feel it does. So, for me to take on these new beliefs, like, they're supposed to, like, answer all these questions, but I still, like, have doubts on them.
I disagree that faith is intended to answer questions.
How so?
Well, that's why we call it faith and not knowledge or education.
I guess it makes sense.
Faith is the belief in things unseen. And everybody has faith in something. That is, nobody sees everything. So everybody has faith in something. But people don't put faith in something in order to understand it. People put faith in things to, I guess I would say, faith is like a Band-Aid. And everybody has one.
Everybody's scratched up.
Well, I mean,
everybody has stuff they need to cover.
Yeah, you could put it that way. I'm not, maybe Band-Aid's not a pleasant word because it implies people have been scratched up and cut, as you said, but that's not what I meant to imply. I just meant, like, we got 5 senses. We have 5 senses. There's a number of scientists. Stephen Hawking has a theory called imaginary time, which says that is a theory from his that goes back to the early 80s, and nobody's even attempted to disprove it because it's a pretty good theory that time should mathematically have the same its own unique space, like apart from space. So, like, a lot of people will say space-time is like just space and time together, but Stephen Hawking's idea was that time has its own space and it's separate from space itself, and the only reason we can't perceive it is because we only have 5 senses. I'm not trying to get too in the weeds on science here. and it's not even technically
Right.
science, this, because it's a theory, but the point is that like there are so many scientists that'll tell you it's interesting that we only have 5 senses. Like, is there more that we could sense? You could call that a form of faith, that maybe there's other senses that humans aren't born with, you know. But that's more of what I mean when I say that like faith is like a Band-Aid. It's like, well, no, like we only have 5 senses. We're born with that. We're born with questions. And so maybe Band-Aid isn't the best analogy for what I think faith is, but it's like it's some kind of, you know, it's like faith is like a theory.
Hmm.
And nobody knows. Gravity is a theory.
Gravity's a theory?
It's capital T theory, but it's a theory.
Oh.
We
Right.
know
Because
we know stuff. In other words, we know stuff falls, but we don't know why it must fall.
Hmm. So you can know the truth behind the theory, but not know the reason or how it works.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like
And so that's the faith part.
we don't get all the answers. Yeah, we don't get all the answers. We can just, and I think again, like I'm not trying to belittle faith. I think everybody has faith in something, but faith isn't supposed to get you. I'm on this tangent because you were saying that you felt some pressure to have all the answers now that you've adopted a new faith, and I think that's besides the point. I don't think anybody believes in gravity because it's gonna. That means you have the answer. If you understand gravity, you have the answers to all of life's problems. I think that people believe in gravity because when they drop stuff, it falls. So gravity's a good guess.
Hmm. All right.
But I feel like we're maybe getting in the weeds on this. I'm happy to get in the weeds, but I don't want to confuse you. Am I confusing you? Because that's the last thing I want.
That's what I was going to say. I've kind of gotten confuzzled from the end of this conversation.
Yeah, that's the last thing I want. Let's get more concrete. To put it simply, I don't think just because you've been baptized that there's some newfound pressure on you to perform or to have all of life's answers. Like that would just be ridiculous on every level for people to expect that from you. You're human. You make decisions based on information that's in front of you, and that's what anybody does. And so I would say enjoy this new journey that you're on, this new chapter of your life, wherever that leads you. And to get more concrete, I would say I have a feeling this military journey for you is going to be a very important one. I feel like you are going to have a lot of stuff come into clarity for you on this new journey. I sense that. Because it's going to force you to think more about what's important to you through hardship. I mean, that's why people say thank you for your service. You're going into the military. You're going to do a very noble job, no matter if you're fighting on the front lines or running an IT role or a journalist. Like there's lots of people who go to the military just like film stuff. So I don't know what you're doing. I'm not asking you to know what you're doing, but you're going to see things that you wouldn't have seen before. And I think that this will be a really meaningful chapter of life to you in determining what your life will stand for.
Thanks, Julian. I hope it's great. And yeah, I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. I don't know yet what I want to do there. I don't even know what branch, to be honest. I just know that I just get really good benefits from it. And like you said, the hardships that and the experience that comes with that is gonna do nothing but help me.
Mm-hmm.
And I got cold feet, man. I thank you for the encouragement.
If there's one thing I'd say it's safe to distrust, it's those cold feet.
You know what that reminds me?
What's that?
This is a Seinfeld episode where George is like, I'm just going to do the opposite of what I do, like, all the time.
Right, I love that
Have you seen
episode.
that
Yeah. I'm just going to do the opposite. If only it were so simple. That would be amazing.
Dude, but sometimes I feel like that's true.
Well, but it's
Like,
impossible because people, yeah, it's impossible.
Well, right. You can't be completely, like, opposite in every way.
You can't just change what you are based on a decision. That's what's so funny about that episode because of what we're talking about. I'm not saying you're wrong to bring it up. I think it's hilarious. It's hilarious mention at this point, but that's the whole point of that joke is if only it were so simple for people to just decide they're going to be the opposite thing. It's not true. It's not. The reason it's a funny joke is because of what we're talking about, that people derive their meaning from the difficult aspects of life, the unsavory aspects of life. This is how we decide what we care about, what matters to us. Because again, we don't care about things that don't need help. We care about things that need care. We care about things that need care. This is why we have welfare programs. This is why I believe there's such a movement towards socialism in America today, is that like our welfare programs suck. And I'm not trying to get political, but they suck. The welfare programs suck. Nobody loves the welfare programs, including the people who rely on them. Nobody's happy with these welfare programs. I'm not trying to get political. The point is that we don't care about things that don't need help. We care about things that that we can give something to. That's why people volunteer their time. This is why people do things on a volunteer basis. This is why people contribute to charities, because certain things in life need help. And so I think that the beauty of hardship in life is it teaches us what's important to us. And what's important to you won't be important to your friends all the time. Maybe you'll have a friend that cares about the things you care about, but your life will stand for something different than the people around you for the most part. And that's something that only we can decide for ourselves what we care about. And usually that comes from experience. And you're in your early 20s, you're going into the military, you're looking for some direction in life. And I'd say that I personally, I love it when I hear people asking this question in the way that you're asking it, because to my mind, the way that you're asking this question, like this is the voice of somebody who's about to discover something monumental to your life. You know, anxiety is what happens right before somebody has a major breakthrough. You know, everybody has anxiety. In fact, this guy, Gabor Mate, I've been reading and listening to more lately. He's in his 80s now. He's like a world-renowned psychologist. I just discovered him a couple years ago or last year sometime. And Gabor Mate, it's Gabormate. He's Canadian.
Okay.
And he's 80s. I think he's 82. And he's written like dozens of books. He was a clinical physician in the first part of his career, and he spent the first part of his life just like, you know, talking to patients and giving them pills and things like this. And now he's like this old guy who's about to retire, and he's spent the last half of his career like in a lot of ways going completely against what he spent the first part of his career doing. Like now he doesn't pump people full of pills, and now he's like his latest book, which is called, I'll put it in the chat for you. It's called The Myth of Normal. Give me a second. I'll put it in the chat for you. Great book. Fast. It's more than a great book. It's a mind-blowing book. It's not easy to read. Very difficult read. It's like 800 pages or something like that. Not an easy read. But there it is for you.
Like a synopsis of like the beginning of it so I can get pumped for it.
Yeah, I'm about to go in there. So the reason I'm bringing it up is because he talks about, see, I'm trying to jog my memory. Where were we? Hardships, setbacks,
Anxiety.
anxiety. Thank you. Anxiety. So he talks a lot lately about anxiety. Like, everybody has anxiety. It's evolved. We've evolved the capacity for anxiety. And can you imagine a world without anxiety? I'm mincing his words a little bit here. I'm putting it in my own words because I can't remember his exact words. But I think I almost said exactual, which should be a word. Exactual. Petition to make exactual a word.
It's an word.
But he says that, can you imagine a world without anxiety? Like, what would get done if people weren't anxious about stuff? In other words, anxiety is what happens right before somebody solves an important problem. We have anxiety because we think, what will happen? What's the worst that could happen if this problem isn't solved? And that very anxiety motivates us to go solve the problem.
So it's just a motivator.
That's right. I believe that, at least. And Gabor seems to. And I think he's right. I think I wouldn't want to live in a world without anxiety. We can find our meaning from the anxiety. I'm not saying that people should wallow in their misfortunes or that people should, like, not pull themselves out of a dark place. I'm saying the exact opposite, that anxiety is there to keep you from staying in the dark place. Anxiety says, what happens if we stay here?
So I have something to say about that. Just anxiety in general, for, like, personally. So I feel like there's been close to 90, like a lot of my time I've spent anxious. Whether, like, I feel like I'm just an anxious person now, but I am also diagnosed with ADHD, so that could have something to do with it. So for me to be anxious all the time, right, and to not be medicated for that at all, just, trying to live with it, you could say has not been very successful. Or I haven't found much success, according to what I feel like I need or I want. Because I think I've learned to cope with my anxiety in, like, the wrong way. And for me to, do something different, like to change my life, radically, sounds easier than to, live a little differently and, change everything over time. That's partially why I started thinking about military in the first place. And for me to, like, jump in there and, like, almost have a sense of, like, well, it's too late now, like, I'm gonna do this, like, it seems like it's gonna be easier, right? Does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know if I'm not thinking of anything else, but, like, I just wanted to vent that. And I know somebody out there, whether they're listening or not, must know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. And I realize what I'm saying might be, like, it might run contrary to your experience. And I'm not a psychologist, I'm not an expert in this stuff.
You're good.
I read a lot of books, but I'm still going to go to bat for this because Gabor Mate devotes an entire chapter to what you're talking about in The Myth of Normal. It might even be 2 chapters. It might even be 3. I can't even remember. But he spends a decent amount of time in this book talking about how he used to give people pills for anxiety. For the first 30 years of his career, he was just giving people pills for anxiety. And now he says anxiety is just a normal... it can vary for different people. It can vary for... You should... I'm mincing his words, so if this is at all interesting to you, I would read the description of the book and then maybe read the book or listen to him on some podcasts before you invest money in the book, if that's safer. But he spends a lot of time in the book talking about how he is very slow these days to diagnose someone with anxiety. Because he doesn't believe that it's a condition. Sorry, I don't think I heard what you just said.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear what you said either. So I said, so I could just be overplaying it, like I could be in my own head overplaying this, and like realistically shouldn't be worrying about my anxiety.
Well, I would listen to what Gabor has to say about it. I would hear it direct from the source, from the guy who's doing the work. But, in my mind, as a fan of his, and knowing how he talks about these things, I would say, yeah, it could be a trauma response, anxiety. It also could be just a normal human response in the way that everybody experiences anxiety from time to time, or it could be part of your ADHD if you really have that. It could be part of that. It could be a number of those things. But it doesn't need to be debilitating to the point where you need medication. And I'm not telling you to get off your meds. Don't listen to me and get off. If you're on meds, I'm not telling you to get off of them. I'm not anti-medicine. I'm just saying I think anxiety is a good thing. That's in the simplest way I can say it. I think it's a good thing. I've come to see anxiety as a good thing. Like now, if I'm I used to have severe social anxiety. I wasn't always that way. It developed for me in my 20s because I used to be so careless. Like I used to do the most ridiculous pranks when I was a kid. I'd go in public and do these ridiculous things when I was a teenager. I didn't care what people thought. And then as I started getting recognized in public for videos that I'd made, and that became more common than not, it developed a sense of social anxiety in me. And for a long time, I know there's people out there who I've rubbed the wrong way. People who've come up to me asking me for a picture or to sign something. And I know I've rubbed people the wrong way because I just developed this social anxiety from oh my gosh, are people when it's hard to describe, but when someone's looking at you, or when a group of people are looking at you and they're not coming over, you're oh God, have I offended someone? All these thoughts run through your head. Have I done something horrible? Do I have am I bleeding somewhere? You don't know why they're looking at you, and that I had to get over that. It took me a long time. It took me probably about 10 years to get to a place where I'm now totally okay being in public. If somebody comes up and talks to me and wants something, I'm not weird about it. It took me, I don't know that I can quite encapsulate what I'm trying to say into a single thought because it was about 10 years of experience. But my point is I thought I was permanently socially anxious. And now I've arrived in a place where I don't care. If I can be in a social situation and not have any nerves, whether the person is confronting me or whether the person might want something from me or whether the person might be asking me out or, whatever it is. I've just arrived in this place of comfort socially, and I never thought I would get there. It took me about 10 years. So I'm not trying to belittle the feelings of anxiety that you're describing. I'm saying that I think it's compelling the way that Gabor talks about these ideas. I think it's more than compelling. I think it's really powerful stuff he's talking about. This is a guy who spent the first 30 years of his career just pumping people full of pills for things they come into his office saying I feel XYZ. Well, we got a pill for that, and now he's spent the last half of his career doing the opposite, just being like, not with everything, but specifically with anxiety. He talks a lot about anxiety these days and how it can be a good thing. It can be a good indicator for what's important to you. And it's a common theme that we're talking about tonight, actually, on this call, because we're talking about finding meaning through hardship, and we're talking about finding direction through anxiety. And these are both ways of finding value in discomfort.
So, question about trying to get some answers based on your personal story, which you brought up briefly. What is one simple or concrete thing you could say that helped you, over those 10 years, sort of embrace the idea that, like not be as anxious / understand that you didn't need to be worried?
If you don't mind, I would love to actually, you just reminded me of something that a dear friend of mine told me the other night. We were talking about something similar, and I asked them how they got through a certain flavor of anxiety, and they said something to me that I found really interesting. I'd never thought of it this way before, so I'll just regurgitate what they said to me, to you. This person said they used to have, for them it was also social anxiety that they were dealing with, just to be clear, if that's helpful. And they said they got to a place where they had to realize that the people around them they were feeling pressure from were just people, just like themselves. No different, no better, no worse, just people. No matter what their net worth was, no matter how attractive they were, no matter, what that person meant to them personally, that they had to realize this person is just another person. I'm just another person. We're all just another person. And I'm not sure if that's helpful, but I'm mentioning it because you mentioned you're feeling pressure from others in your life. And I wonder if that helps you to think of these people that you're feeling like you don't want to let down, to see them as just people who see you. These are people who they see you as just another person too.
I definitely understand what you're saying. That makes sense.
But it doesn't help.
And that is helpful to hear because I do tend to, not remember that sometimes, which kind of reminds me of your last conversation with, or your last call. It kind of feels like, I'm in a movie and I'm like, having to live up to an expectation as the main character of a movie, right? But what you're saying is, if everybody's the same, then it's definitely not like that.
It's not to say that you can't have people you look up to, or people who inspire you in some way, or people who will spur you along in your journey. Like everybody's going to look up to something in people. Everybody's going to admire something in another person. But these people, even these people that we admire, they're just people, And I guess I'm struggling to tell if the thought I just gave you was helpful or what you were looking for, or if it was completely off base. I wasn't sure when I finished talking if that was helpful or not.
I found it helpful.
Okay.
And that's really all I wanted to talk about. And thank you, Julian.
Thank you for calling and being real. You can call again anytime. Lines are always open. And would love to get a good update from you. I'm wishing you the best on this new journey into the military. And I hope, and I actually more than hope, I believe you're about to discover a lot about yourself and what's important to you in the world and in life. And would love to get an update on that at some point in the future.
Cool. Thanks, friend.
Thank you. Wishing you the best.
All right. Bye-bye.
Good night. Guys, we had beautiful calls tonight. Thank you, chat, for being here and offering the callers your thoughts. The chat is a resource to the callers. It's always great for the callers to go back and see what other people in the chat were saying. So I thank you. And also want to thank our mods. Our mods are amazing. Tonight we had Ray Mag, Deanna Krebs, and King's Pawn. You guys are awesome. Sorry for the audio glitch at the beginning of this. We do these streams once a week on Tuesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. There's also a Discord channel. We talked about a bunch tonight, but it's free to you. It's in the video description. You can find a link to that. And that does it for us here tonight. Thank you guys for a great stream, and I will see you a week from today on Tuesday of next week right here at 10 p.m. Eastern. And hope to see you guys in the Discord. Have a great week, and I'll see you guys soon. Good night.